Greetings, greetings. This is Shia Yeshub, and this is a special edition of Truth Be Told. We're going to get right to it. I don't know how many different ways of saying it, but we are definitely in a shift. There are mornings when I wake up and I just feel off. I was talking to my wife about it probably just last week. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I just feel anxious. I'm not sure what it is. I feel off. I got a nervousness feeling that's in my stomach. And I shared it with co-host Ayob, and he was like, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And he said a lot of this has to do with the ruach that is in the air, right? And that we are up under a major shift at this particular time. Well, later that day, I talked to my cousin Safa, and I had not mentioned how I'd been feeling at all. I just asked him how he was doing, and he told me, "Yo, I don't know what it is, man. I just feel anxious. I'm not feeling right. I don't know what it is." And I said, "Strange. I feel the exact same way." And I shared with him the words that Ayob Ben Yahoo had shared with me because it makes all the sense in the world. I'm saying all of that to say that if you can't feel the shift that is happening, something is wrong, right? Either you, and I'm not putting this on nobody. I'm just, just stating it the way that I see it. Either you may be reprobate, or if you're not reprobate, maybe the Most High is not working with you, or maybe you just somebody who just don't care. But we are entering into an unknown for real. We're entering into an unknown, and we're entering into an era that has never before been seen by the likes of men. I believe that everything that is happening, and even with all of the leaders that are in place, they have been put in place, ordained by the Most High. He has allowed these individuals to be put in place here over America, over in Russia, over in Israel, right? In Ibrahim Tyree over in Baku for show, right? Burkina for show, excuse me. All of these leaders have been put in place for this particular time and what we are in right now. Here in America, we have always been able to brand ourselves as the land of the free. This is what we have always been able to brand ourselves on. And not only that, nations from other places have always wanted to come flood our borders because we have this access to be able to express ourselves in a way that nobody else can express themselves nowhere else, right? Here in America, we can walk around and we can pretty much do what it is that we want to do as long as we're not harming others. But we have an individual that is in office right now, which is a man, and which is so strange, but he has so many tendencies of a woman because he is so emotional. He don't really move off of logic and reason. He moves off of his emotions. And right now in LA, and this is something that we're going to be talking about on the show, right now in LA, he has deployed the National Guard on protesters. He is about to send 500 Marines on these protesters because they are protesting against him and his ICE policies. Now, whether you agree with his policies or not, this is still America where we have a right to protest peacefully. And I was talking to an individual and he was saying that he has a right to do this because they're not legal, but no, he don't. Because from what I understand and from what I've seen, and if I am wrong on this, there was no problem with the protest until the National Guards got there. Trump whole deal is to break up the protest because they are not agreeing with what the federal government is saying. And that's wrong on so many levels. So you're telling me that he is willing to hurt or kill citizens of this nation because they disagree with him. That's who we got in office. Now, this show is going to be talking about what he has put in place that is called illegal DEI. And I'm hoping that my internet is working correctly because I got a couple of videos. The first video that we're going to show is Summer Lee when she wanted all of the smoke with Linda McMahon, who is the Secretary of Education for Trump, right? And we know that right now they are telling schools, public schools that is receiving public fundings, that there are certain topics that they cannot teach, right? And one of them being African-American history, especially as it relates to how America has treated us in the past, right? So let's listen to this first video of Summer Lee and how she wanted to smoke with Linda McMahon. We're going to talk about that. And then I got a video that's going to backdoor that. And I'm going to show you what they will call illegal DEI studies here in America. Let's go.
You the answer you want.
No, I want the answer, whatever your answer is.
I just gave you the answer.
No, the answer is yes or no. So let's talk about so-called illegal DEI, as you all have called it, a phrase you've continually bring up, that I'm still unclear on, especially after 3 federal judges have preliminarily ruled that your illegal DEI guidance is likely unconstitutional and unenforceable, illegal, as it were. Secretary McMahon, during your confirmation hearing, you were asked by Senator Chris Murphy if an African-American history class violated the administration's position on diversity, equity, and inclusion. You said you'd like to look into it. You've been on the job for a few months now. Have you been able to look into it?
I do not think that African studies or Middle East studies or Chinese studies are part of DEI if they are taught as part of the total history package. So that if you're giving the facts on both sides, of course they're not DEI.
I don't know what both sides of African-American history would be. Would you say that it would be an illegal DEI for a lesson plan on the Tulsa Race Massacre?
I'd have to get back to you on that.
Do you know what the Tulsa Race Massacre is?
I'd like to look into it more and get back to you on it.
Okay, so I look forward to that. How about the book Through My Eyes by Ruby Bridges, for instance?
I haven't read that.
Have you learned about Ruby Bridges?
If you have specific examples you'd like
That was a specific example.
I'll be very happy.
It was an incredibly specific example.
I
named a
your
specific
questions,
book.
and I will look into it and get back to you on them.
Thank you. How about a school having a voluntary celebration for Pride Month?
Well, I think that
Voluntary.
well, let's make sure that in our schools
This is yes or no?
we're looking. No, it's not.
Okay, now notice when she asked her, is it illegal to talk about the Tulsa Massacre? She has to look into that, right? Do you know about the Tulsa Massacre? I have to look into that. Now, Linda McMahon, you are way too old not to know about the Tulsa Massacre, you know. But you don't want to say here on this panel, while Lee Summer is grilling you, that yes, teaching the Tulsa Massacre is an illegal DEI subject. Now, you said at the beginning of this that it is fair as long as you teach it on both sides. Well, if we taught it on both sides, it's still going to end up really, really bad on your side of the fence because you guys are the ones that bombed the entire cities. You guys are the ones that took all of the women and locked them up and would not allow their husbands to come claim them or to come bring them back home. You guys are the ones who also did not allow them to take claims out on their insurance so that they can rebuild what it is that you guys tore up. This is the Tulsa Massacre. This is the Tulsa Massacre that you don't want to say that, yes, it's an illegal subject to be taught in school. And Ruby Bridges, I can understand. Maybe you have not read the book. I get that. But again, Linda, you are too old, Linda, to know who Ruby Bridges is. But Pride Month, right? Lesbians, gays, transgenders, and whatever else that they want to call themselves. No, you could talk about that. See, there's a real problem with this, right? There is an agenda with this. There is an end game that is going to come with this, and we're going to discuss that later as we begin to wrap this up. Let's finish listening to this grilling.
Okay. How about social studies standards that teach that President Biden won the 2020 election?
I think our studies should all be taught accurately.
Yes or no?
I think our studies should
No,
be
no, no.
taught
The
accurately.
question was, do you believe that social studies standards that teach that President Biden won the 2020 election is an illegal DEI, yes or no?
I think I have said we should teach accurately.
Question.
Well,
I
I'm
don't
answering the
understand
question.
why you're incapable
I'm
of
just
answering.
not giving you the answer you want.
No,
but
I
I'm
want
answering
the answer,
question.
whatever your answer is.
I just gave you the answer.
No, the answer is yes or no.
No, the answer is I think
The
our
answer is
courses
yes or
should be
no.
taught
Gentleladies,
Thank you so
time
much.
is-
I yield back.
All right.
So actually, she did answer the question. By not answering the question, her answer is yes, that is illegal. Anything that goes against the grain of what this government has put in place or is trying to put in place, it is illegal, and this is how they're going to see it. We're moving, they have already moved away from a republic into a democracy without us fighting back, without us pushing back. Now they're going to be moving from a democracy to a dictatorship. And this is what it seems like. And I'm wondering, are we going to push back on it? Because this right now, what we're seeing that is happening right before our eyes is crazy. The agenda is to remove the Negroes, get us up out of here. Especially if you're going to be what they deemed back in the 30s and the 50s and the 60s, an uppity Negro that don't know who their place is. They are trying their best to move as far away from their history that they possibly could. And this is not something that is new. They have been doing this for a long time. My wife and I, we talked about it probably about 10 years ago when they started removing certain statues in certain areas throughout the country. And Black folks was all on board with that, talking about they need to be removed because they don't have no place. Yes, they do have a place because that's history. Leave those people where they are so that it could never be mistaken that they did not exist when we know that they did. They don't want to talk about the cruel actions that they did to us in the past, so much to the point that they will do cruel actions to us today to ensure that we do not teach it. Who have heard of Mary Turner? Did anybody ever heard of Mary Turner? Well, we're about to learn about Mary Turner, and this, my friend, is what I do believe that they will call an illegal DEI teaching, that no school would ever be able to teach. You would never be able to educate the students on Mary Turner. And this is what they did to this lady at the age of 21 years old. Check it out.
By her feet from a tree after beating her. They set her on fire, and she was pregnant, so they cut her stomach open. And when the baby fell, the unborn baby fell, they stomped on it. They stomped on it. Then they riddled her body with 60 bullets. After all that, they left her there to die. Her name is Mary Turner. She was a 21-year-old Black woman married to Hayes Turner. And the reason this happened to her is because a white plantation owner who was known for brutalizing his slaves. This is 1918, by the way. Slavery was supposed to be emancipated in 1865. But anyway, a white slave owner was killed by his enslaved African for being brutal. When word got out that he had died, a large mob of white men and women went around killing 13 Black women and children and men all over Valdosta, Georgia. Hayes Turner, who was Mary's husband, had nothing to do with the killing of Mr. Smith, but the mob lynched him anyway. One of the 13 victims was riddled with 120 bullets while hanging from a tree. Now, like I said, Mary's husband, Hayes Turner, was lynched. Mary found out about this, and she knew the names of everyone that was involved, and she decided to expose it and tell the world, hey, my husband and these 13 victims need justice. The mob did not like that at all. And if you don't know, it's 1918. You know that the white community would have done tremendously worse for less. So imagine how they felt when they were exposed. That is when they dragged her to the middle of Valdosta, Georgia, to Little River, beat her, strung her up by her feet upside down, set her on fire, cut her stomach open, stomped on her baby, and shot her over 60 times. She was 21 years old. I'm 25. My little sister's 21. It's kind of crazy. Did you know about this?
Yeah. Why did they grab her? Why did they hang her upside down? Why did they burn her? Why did they cut her infant out of her body and stomp on her infant? Because she knew their names and she went forth to expose them for what it is that they have done. Matthew tells us that the time is going to come when they are going to gather us together and they are going to throw us into prisons because of our name's sake, people. We see these things happening amongst us, and we cannot continue to live and to go about as if everything is still 1983, as if things are still 1993, or even 2003 as far as that concerned. 2025, we are now entering into an era where things are changing. There is a shift, there is a shaking, there is a sifting, as the Bible explains it. And this is why we need to know what history is, because the same thing that happened to Mary Turner can repeat itself if we do not recognize the patterns. This is Shia Yeshub. This has been a special Truth Be Told. Meet with us this Wednesday, 7:30 Central. We're going to have a full house this week. Yo, Ben Yahuba, Nashel, Lahaya, and myself. We're going to have some great news topics that we're going to be coming up with. Until then, peace. Y'all look for these little specials as well.